I took 1 week off after my dad died. Then I logged back into Zoom and started seeing clients. That's what no one prepares you for as a trauma therapist when your own grief walks into the room with you. Hi, I'm Dr. Jenny Hughes, founder of the Brave Trauma Therapist Collective, and I help trauma therapists be human and get the support they deserve because being human does not just stop because we're the ones going through it, right? So in April 2020, my dad died of COVID while living in a nursing home. Yep, right at the beginning of the pandemic. And I had been his caregiver and legal power of attorney for over a decade, since I was a first year in grad school in California, actually. We'd been through so much together: medical crises, family tension, hard decisions. And I took my role very seriously and 100% supported his end of life choices. And I was ready to follow through with that. I had no qualms about it. So, when the time came to honor his DNR and DNI, do not intubate, at this point in the pandemic, given all of his co occurring health problems, I did exactly what we had agreed on. I fucking honored them. I stood firm, even when not everyone in my family understood, when people pushed back and literally told me what an awful person I was for letting him die. I can really truly feel that right now as if it were happening again. That's how intense and heavy that was. And then add to this the fact that I was pregnant with my first child, and we had only just announced our pregnancy a month earlier on Mardi Gras Day from the French Quarter in New Orleans. In fact, before we posted the picture to our socials, I called my dad as I stood fully costumed right in the middle of the St. Anne parade, throngs of Mardi Gras costumes around me, surrounded by happiness, joy, and love. I can still recall that moment too, of calling him and getting to tell him that we were pregnant and hearing in his voice his excitement, his happiness. Then fast forward back to late March, early April 2020, and then 6 days before his 75th birthday, and he was dead. His death from COVID progressed really quickly, as many did at that point in the pandemic, but we also knew so little about the virus at that point. So, everything was a guessing game. That said, I did know that he was dying. And the clinic where I worked at the time knew that I was navigating this health scare. But then I had to actually tell them that he died and decide what I was going to do about my work, my clients. Let's just say my survival and protector parts were very prominent in that time. And wait for it, I took 1 whole week off. And then I was back on Zoom with the clients that I loved and cared for, but deeply in the throes of grief. And these clients, my clients, they were scared and many were grieving too. Fuck, we all were. But I didn't tell them my dad died. I didn't honestly think I was allowed to. And in this moment, right now, as I look at that sad, scared, lonely part of myself, I wish she had had the permission to share if she wanted to. And that's why I'm sharing my story with you, because you don't have to share anything about yourself with your clients ever. But what about with those moments when it's right on the tip of your tongue and you pull back? We're understandably taught not to self-disclose. We're taught to compartmentalize, to be the steady one in the room, in the relationship, right? And yes, we got to do that. There's so much value and ethical reasons for these clinical boundaries, but grief doesn't just politely wait outside your therapy office door, and life doesn't wait there either. It is right here in your body, in your voice, in your clients. They can feel that. And they're often grieving too, or feeling alone, or not good enough, or you fill in the blank. And, in 2020, we were all grieving something. And as I look back on that time, it was such an important period of learning for me because we were forced to share so much, right? Our backgrounds changed. All of a sudden, our families and our pets and all the things were there as they were for our clients. Us therapists couldn't pretend that we weren't going through that same communal trauma too. And my clinical work during the pandemic really helped to strengthen a lot of what I learned and experienced working bedside when I was the trauma psychologist at a level 1 trauma center. The power in sharing myself, my humanness, and how to do that in ethical and clinically supportive ways. And the freedom that came along with this, and how much it strengthened the therapeutic relationship and really truly improved outcomes for my clients was amazing. So, no, I didn't come back and lead with my dad just died. That's why I was gone last week. I wasn't ready for that. And that's okay. I have no judgment about that for that part of me. I didn't know if I could do that. Like, I didn't know if I was allowed to. And I also, on the flip side, know so many amazing and ethical therapists who have shared details like that. And it is so incredible. And they've done that from a very informed and guided place. At that time, though, for me, being real started to look like softening when I could feel tears welling up in my eyes and not pushing them down just to look like had it all together. It looked like saying things like, "Oh, God, I can feel that right here." Or, "There's something about what you just shared with me that's really staying with me. It's sticking with me." Sometimes it just looked like pausing, letting the silence stretch just a little bit longer, or letting my voice catch for half a second and not apologizing for it. And eventually, over time, when it felt congruent and useful, I have shared about my dad, about myself. Things like grief is so heavy, and when we feel it, it can take over us. That's it. Nothing dramatic, nothing detailed, but deeply human and connected. As I have been growing in my own practice this way, I've found that when I stopped trying to tuck my grief away, I had more energy. I was more attuned. I felt less like I was performing the role of therapist and more like I was simply being myself with someone. It has helped me show up in ways that are honest, boundaried, and just whole, holistic, complete. And I can feel my clients settling in even more deeply too. Not because they necessarily know what I was going through or what I go through now in my life, but because they can feel that I'm not hiding. So, why am I sharing this now over 5 years later? Well, we talk a lot in Brave and on this YouTube channel about what it means to be human in this work. And recently, we have had some incredible guest experts in Brave leading us through conversations about traumatic grief and end of life support. We have welcomed Compassion and Choices, an incredible organization in the United States that supports end of life. Kelly Doherty, a licensed clinical social worker and advocate for informed grief treatment approaches into our space in Brave. And the conversations we have had together around this incredibly difficult topic have been just so profound. They've been healing and truly transformative. And they've brought me back to this time in my life in 2020 and reminded me again that it's not just our clients who need space for grief. We do too. And when we give ourselves that space, when we can receive that space, it can shift everything. So if you're carrying something recent, ancient, unresolved, unnamed, I hope you know you do not have to carry it alone. You do not have to hide it to be a good therapist. And you don't have to choose between being a professional and being a person. We're having these conversations inside the Brave Trauma Therapist Collective. So if this stirred something for you, come join us with the link in the description below. And be sure to subscribe too so you don't miss out on our weekly videos supporting your humanity as a trauma therapist.